Good morning, everybody. Stu Smith here, going live. Hope you guys are well. Trying to find my Instagram session, which I don't see. Thought I was going live on Instagram. Let's see. There we go. All right. So we're live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So Stu Smith here, your favorite coach, and we're going to talk a little bit about gaming the system. Can you even do it? Now, I don't like even talking about this topic because it's just not the right way to go about training. But sure as every Buds class that has gone through and Spec Ops class that has gone through, they've tried to find out ways, make it easy on themselves. Sometimes it's a group think, sometimes it's an individual. It happens for good or bad. I'm not judging. It just happens. So, for instance, some people will think, hey, if I show up, if I go to boot camp in, January, get through boot camp in the spring, by the time I do Hell Week, it'll be summer type of thinking. That's pretty common. If you show up in the summer, chances, or you show up to boot camp in the summer, chances are you're going to have a fall or winter Hell Week. It really kind of depends. I didn't have a winter Hell Week. I had a fall Hell Week, so it was around like Halloween when we had Hell Week. So it was cold enough, but not hot. So it was kind of a mix. But let me tell you, winter dive phase was worse than anything uh, Hell Week threw at us. So, I remember when the Hell Weeks were going through, when we were going through winter dive phase, and you're like, okay, that's a cold Hell Week. But winter dive phase, just as bad. Probably the coldest I was ever at SEAL training. So you can't really game it to avoid being cold. And in fact, if you look at pictures of Hell Week graduation and guys that have made it through the training, they're all beat up, whether it's winter or summer. But the attrition rate's a little higher in the winter because it is colder, and I think that's a mental challenge than anything else. But one thing you'll notice is they don't run them that much in the winter. You still run, you still do all your stuff with the boats and everything, but you just get so cold and there's no swelling of your joints, your feet, your knees, your hands. They're just not overly swollen. That cold water helps, I guess, with that inflammation. But in the summer, it's just the opposite. You're really inflamed and you got to, really lick your wounds for the next week, just to get over that kind of inflammation. But, some other stories that are kind of fun. I remember there was a guy that we used to wear these old Vietnam era jungle boots. And in the late 90s or early 90s, when we were going through, we were still using 1970s era jungle boots, and they just suck. They're heavy. Tried to do everything you could. You like took out the steel shank that was in there, all the metal that would prevent you from going through you know what do you call them, little sticks they put in the ground in Vietnam to like go through your foot when you stepped in a hole. Um, Bungee sticks, I think. Can't remember. Anyway, it was to prevent that type of thing from happening. Um, so you take all the metal out, you put a soft insert in there, shoe insert in there. So that's a form of kind of gaming the system. There was no rule about it, so it made the shoe and boot a little bit more flexible. Um, but there was another guy who got really clever because on the Navy side of the base, they were selling boots that were really soft, almost like a running shoe. It was a black sole on the bottom, really light, very flexible. Um, but they had a different tread altogether. But he got the idea of making it look exactly like the tread of the original Jungle Boot. Pretty creative, and he grinded it out. I don't know how he did it, but he grinded it out, looked perfect, and they were so light. I think the problem was they weren't very durable and they fell apart before first phase was over, but everybody was like wanting a pair of those. And he just didn't have enough time to make it for everybody. He showed people how to do it, but most people just stuck with their originals. Of course, there's the classic one. You guys may have heard about a class that filled all of their boats with helium instead of air. And I don't know, I don't know how much lighter that made the boats. That was kind of funny. But evidently like an instructor came by and kicked it and it like left the ground for a second and then came bounced back. So they all got hammered for doing that, but kind of clever, if you want. So anyway, there's always been something that occurs. You know, there are people that do it for good and do it, you know, to kind of get out of evolutions, and that's something I would not recommend. Something that I had heard on another podcast that there were no timed evolutions on Fridays, so people would go to sick hall on Fridays because they knew if they missed a tested evolution that they could, um, you can't miss tested evolutions, but there were none on Friday, and so that's when sick hall or medical was filled. That's the type of stuff I don't recommend doing, right? Unless you're really sick and really injured, then obviously go to medical. But it can also be a convenience for you too. That hey, this is when I can go to medical. I sucked it up all week. This knee is really bothering me. I got to get this looked at. Things like that. But there's always something that can be a gaming that goes on the too far on the spectrum of you're skipping out on evolutions and dirt bagging it. Don't recommend that. But then there's this fun method that benefits your whole boat crew or something like that. And I mean, I always thought I was gaming it because I carried uh, sandwich bags full of fruit and honey packets with me in my cargo pouch. So I always had some sugar, going in my body when I needed it. You know, there was no rule against it. I didn't think it was necessarily gaming it, but it was something that made my life a little bit easier going through, if that makes sense. So that's how I would define it if I were you guys, looking for things like that. Um, all right, so that's it for that. Let's talk about some questions here. It looks like we have a few questions over here on YouTube. Let me pull them up. Big Fish says, have you seen videos of those people doing weighted pull-ups, progressive overload? Some of them get so strong that their muscle ups look like they're flying. Yes. In fact, we did weighted pull-ups today. In fact, we did a 1-12-1 pyramid, and you did as many sets as you could with pull-ups and dips weight vested. So it's a good one. Yeah, we do weight vest pull-ups all the time, especially in the spring when we're slowly transitioning out of the winter phase, and then we're going to go into a pure cows and cardio phase in the summer. But we're working on some strength endurance right now, and then that will make the non-weighted pull-ups crank them out. Yes, I have seen people do muscle ups look like they're just ridiculously have no transition out of the pull-up into the dip, right? They're just looks like I do in the pool. So some people see me do pull-outs, like I go underwater in the deep end, holding on to the edge of the pool, crank it out, like almost do like a little mini pull up and a dip. That's kind of easy. You do like 10 of them. You start feeling your triceps, but it's nowhere near a real muscle up. So, yeah, I've seen it. Pretty impressive. Not sure you need to do that, but some people like it. Which book do you recommend for trying to improve my mile and a half time, and any advice you can give me? I mean, pretty much my PST program. The Calisthenics and Cardio program, the PFT Bible program, all of those. If you go to Stu Smith Fitness, you'll see them. Um, all of those have a 1.5 mile time. The FBI fitness test program has a 1.5, and the advice is all in there. Basically, we build some aerobic base and then start focusing on your goal pace. Mix in little sprints in there for working your leg speed, but primarily we focus on goal pace. So if you want to run a 6-minute mile and get a 9-minute mile and a half, you need to practice running a 6-minute mile. But you may not be able to do a 6-minute mile, so you start off at quarter miles and do that in 1:30. You try a half mile in 3 minutes. Next thing you know, you're stringing those together, you got yourself a 6-minute mile. That's how we do it. And if you look up my running programs, in fact, let me just do this for you. Running plan to get you to and through. So you may not be up to 20 miles a week if you're having trouble with a 1.5 mile timed run. So you may not want to do all the miles I have listed in this. So check it out. Cut it in half if you need to. In the Buds training book, phase 2 and 3, do I expect people to do all the prescribed workouts each day? I mean, if you can, do it what fits your schedule. Not everybody has 1.5 hours, 2 hours to do this, or pool facilities at the time that they're ready to have a pool. So what we do, we break it up into 2 workouts where we'll do all the calisthenics, weights, running in the morning, and then we'll do the swimming in the afternoon. Sometimes people will save the running for the afternoon as well and do running and swimming in the afternoon, just do the resistance stuff in the morning. But it's kind of up to you how you do it. Not everybody's schedule is the same. But yeah, the goal is try to get this workout done in a day. You can see some are longer than others. Some are, don't take that long, but some do. Got to put in the time. But that's a classic. Jake gave me advice to leave my wife and kids for SEAL training success. I might do it if that's what it. No, that's ridiculous. That's horrible advice. You're. I tell you what. If I found out somebody on my team left their wife and a kid to, that is like abandonment. Man, fuck that, man. It's not that important. When you come back to this, when you're done doing SEAL stuff, guess what you're coming back to? Your family. Dude, I've known many people had wives and kids going through Buds. And then their kids went through Buds, right? And man, and they're still married, right? That's just, that's horrible advice. I was thinking about getting married and starting a family before enlisting. I'm 22. Any stories of guys who went through similar situations? Yeah. I mean, we had several guys do it. I mean, I didn't. But, the 2 guys that were in my Buds class that had brand new wives right after graduating college are still married today. And great families. One of them still is a vice admiral. Freaking stud. And has got a kid that's a SEAL. So it can happen. I've seen a lot of divorces too. So, it's really find you someone who doesn't need you. That's the biggest piece of advice. And what I mean by that is someone that could run the house without you there because you're not going to be there. And then when you get home, don't interfere with the system. Let that system that works, if it's working, don't interfere with it. Keep going. Oh, Jesus. Some of you guys giving some really piss poor advice on families. It's not that important. I was dating my now wife when I was going through buds. We've been dating for a year. Went through buds. She stayed on the East Coast. She didn't have time for me anyway because I was, going through buds, and she was working full time and going to school at night. So it just worked out. We're both 22, 23 years old. And then somehow it worked out, and then probably 8 years later we started having kids. How much swimming do you normally advise for TAC P candidates? Being that they swim, but they do not have the same extent, do not swim the same extent as PJCCT. I usually, I have a, Air Force Special Warfare program that I recommend people do. Um, this is actually a real good one too for them because there's a lot more running or rucking in it, not a lot of running in it. Um, but you need to be durable enough for more rucking because you will be rucking more. Um, I would say this. TAC P is kind of one of those weird ones where you do need to know how to swim a little bit, um, and some pool skills, but you're probably going to spend more time running and rucking. So it's kind of a hybrid between, PJ and Ranger, if that makes any sense. So what a lot of people have done in the past, since I don't have a specific TAC P program, I just send them over to the Air Force Special Warfare just to master their portion of the fitness test. Some of the pool skills are important in that program for them. But then when it comes down to longer swims, just turn those longer swims with fins into rucks. Maybe do one swim with fins, but you know, don't waste a lot of time in the pool and just replace any long swims with a ruck that week. And progress up that way. I did a zone 2 ruck march with 45 pounds, not very intense. Should I include this in my weekly mileage? Yeah, I would. I mean, it's mileage, but it's also rucking miles. So some of my programs, I will put in, like at the end of the week, a total of miles at the end of running and rucking. And once those start getting higher rucking mileage, I would say it starts to matter. But if you're dabbling in rucking, you know, 3, 4, 5 miles in a week, I wouldn't sweat it too much, especially if you're doing a zone 2 thing. But if you're starting to do shuffles and trying to break 10-minute miles with that ruck, then I would call it running and add it to your running miles. But if you're just walking with weight, I wouldn't sweat it. I still have one of your original books and DVD from maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, that book's like 25 years old. So, yeah. Well, thank you. One of the best things I ever bought. Well, I appreciate it. I love that book. It's a great workout. We still pull out some classics out of that one. It's good times. Um, Complete guide to Navy SEAL fitness of what you're talking about. I don't sell it anymore on my site. Um, just a deal that I made with the publisher that we just sell it on Amazon now. Is 11:30 mile and a half a good start? It's a good start for a 240 pounder, I would say. Who can do 22 pull-ups? That's really good. But you got to work on your push-ups and sit-ups, unless those are 1 minute push-ups and sit-ups. If they're 2 minute push-ups and sit-ups, you need to get a little closer to almost doubling them. Between 80 and 100. Push-ups, sit-ups is a good standard. Pull-ups are solid. I don't know if you want to feel like losing weight, but that's going to help you with everything. 6'3", 240. You could probably be a 6'3", 215 and still jacked and killing it. As team guy, if there's someone is willing to leave the current team they're on, I'm questioning if they leave my time in the future. It's good. I would agree. Um, Good morning, Stu. I need advice. I've been getting imposter syndrome. How do I prevent it or work with it? Um, it depends. A lot of times, where I see imposter syndrome the most is first week of buds. And let me tell you why that is I remember showing up there, and first week we had 120 people. At least 90 of them were fresh out of high school, just finished boot camp and showed up. They're still 18 years old, some even 17. And they just realized this is not a boys' game, right? This training is like, it's not like they just spend the summer getting ready for football season, right? It's completely different animal. And they realize these are grown ass men in here, 25, 26, 23, D1 athletes. I mean, and you show up there and, you just fresh out of high school, still talking about prom, you know, that's imposter syndrome right there. And that is a hard one to come over. And that's why I really think a lot of people mentally screw themselves when they show up there. They realize how ill prepared they are real quick. And then they learn it real quick that they didn't work on some of the stuff they needed to work on. Um, my advice is this: depending on your age, I'm real curious what your age is. A lot of people lose the imposter syndrome as they break through their teens and get into their 20s. And then by the time you're 23 to 25, it's a different animal. But if you Google it, it's a thing. You can, let me see. I know I've written about it before. Imposter syndrome, Stu Smith. Maybe I talked about it on. I know I talked about it on a podcast. A couple different podcasts. Yeah, Google that, and you'll see a couple podcasts on it. What is this one? I can't see which number it is, but yeah, imposter syndrome is mentioned in it. But you know, probably be better to just go on Google and look up getting over imposter syndrome. I've seen people grow out of it. I've seen people start doing stuff so they have a little more confidence in themselves, because you're not going to get confidence when you just read about it or hear somebody talking about it. You just got to go do stuff, and start creating a never quit mindset. That requires some confidence. You're not going to get it unless you're out there doing it, preparing yourself. You might, give yourself another year if you're having those feelings. I take my PST Thursday. Any advice on how to rest and stay prepared for Thursday? I wouldn't rest too much. I mean, take a mobility day on Wednesday and test on Thursday. Maybe cut your workouts a little short today. But if you read the article called PST Clinic, Stu Smith, check this out. This is a really good way to break down all the elements of the PST. It's a classic. So I just put it in the comment section over there on Instagram. You won't be able to click it, I know, but if you read it, you'll see the title of it in that's the hyperlink. I'm old now, so memory's going. I'm 43. I was 18, 19 when I got it. Was trying not to age myself. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, 18, 19 is when it happens to everybody. You do it if you're going to college. You feel like, ooh, geez, those seniors are grown ass men, right? It happens. It's going to happen first week of buds too. Let's see here. kind of a random question, but how intensive is TAC-P rucking in comparison to SFAS? How would TAC-Pers fare at FAS? I don't know. That's a good question. For everybody I've talked to that did the rucking program or the Ranger SF program that I have that went TAC-P, they did really well. So I don't know. But people who did that program that went Ranger SF did really well too. So I would say similar. Is it okay to ruck walk if you have shin splints? Well, try it out. I would say I would probably go non-impact cardio personally, but you can try it. We have a guy that has some shin issues right now, and he rucked on soft sand. So it really kind of depends on your, um, I guess ground impact forces. So I wouldn't do it on pavement. Maybe get on a track, rubberized track, or maybe even on the inside where that turf is. That's a really good, softer ground that you can, um, walk on without the forces being too great. But you may feel it within a mile. You may feel your shins starting to hurt, so don't go too far away from the house. I know you have a decent relationship with Jake, but he did give that advice, and he's given that advice quite frequently towards people who are married or have kids. Well, I mean, that's his opinion. We all have opinions. I just disagree with it. I would never tell somebody to do that. I would say this, put it this way, I didn't get married and start having kids until I was 7 years in. I was 4 years in, got married, didn't have kids till I was 7 years in. So, and I got out in 8 years. So I know many people who have kids and that are in, and it's a big sacrifice. And he's not wrong that it's hard. And a lot of people will say it's too hard on my family to do this. I get it, but I would never give that advice. Kind of a random question. Oh, you already asked that. Hey, LE officer here from Ian. 2 young kids and busy work. Any advice on balance of training, recovering alongside? Lack of sleep, stress, 34 years old, can't recover like I used to. Yeah, my advice is start adding in mobility days. I don't know if you've seen my articles on mobility days. Um, there's a workout series called Tactical Fitness Over 40, and I know you're not 40 yet, but consider it given your profession and all the other stresses that you have in your life. It can help with actively pursuing recovery. It's a mindset that you need to have. Actively pursuing recovery. It's going to help you with stress mitigation. It's going to help you with longevity. But guess what, young guys? Actively pursuing recovery is going to help you with optimal performance. So it's for everybody. Don't just think the mobility day is for old people. It's for everybody. It has been life changing for me because I remember about 40 at 45, which was 11 years ago now. Um, I thought my hips were done. I thought I was done running. I was my next doctor's appointment. I was going to bring it up and say, I think I need to get a orthopedic, to look at my hips because they're really not feeling right. And literally after a month of doing mobility days, not running, I took a month off of running. I was running again with no pain. And I 100% know it was the mobility day. If you don't know what my mobility day is, one, Google it. Mobility Day, Stu Smith. There's an article I wrote called "Don't Skip Mobility Day." It's a classic, um, but it's basically 5 minutes of non-impact cardio, 5 minutes of yoga-based stretching or foam rolling, massage tooling, whatever you need to do to get that knot out or whatever, and absolutely life-changing. But I would say this: when I was in my 30s, pretty busy. I had some traveling I was doing, young kids as well. Something I would do is if I had a night shift type of work setup, I would work out before the night shift and then come home and get the sleep taken care of during the day, um, while the kids were at school or whatever, and then have a little time with them when they got back, and then worked out like 30, 45 minutes before my night shift. That worked out real well. Or if I had a day shift, I would work out 30, 40 minutes before my day shift and, do it that way. Um, so that's how I always did it. It just wakes you up, it gets you moving. Even if you had crap sleep, you're at least going to feel a little bit more energized after having worked out in the morning. And here's the kicker. If you have a bad night's sleep and you feel like I had a bad night's sleep, I can't work out today. Probably the best thing that will help you is actually working out, because that's going to help you sleep later on that day. You might be able to play some catch up. So, in fact, I wrote an article about that recently about when you don't when you miss a good night's sleep, or you only get a couple hours of sleep. You know, you may not want to skip it. Just do it anyway. Maybe cut it back a little bit. Do something. Wake yourself up. You'll feel better. You'll be a little more productive in the morning versus trying to caffeinate and just stay awake. And then you'll be able to sleep better at night. Because in the end, sleep is our number one recovery tool. I don't care what magic foam roller you have, or ice bath, or infrared sauna, or heat, ice, whatever. You know, sleep and nutrition, number one and number two. If you can nail those down, you got 90% of the recovery equation taken care of, maybe even 100%. But where that missing 10% usually goes is to where all the money is spent. People buy their ice baths and their saunas and their, massage tools. That's great. They feel great. But if you want real recovery, you need sleep and nutrition, period. That's the two most natural ways to recover. So nail that down. You'll probably feel a lot better too. And don't skip workouts. I'm 29, was wondering if there's a good chance to get an age waiver for SEAL training. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, everything's possible. How were you able to maintain your relationships through buds and the rest of your career? Any advice? Um, you know, it's on you, is what I tell people. You have to make the effort to maintain relationships, whether it was with my now wife, or my parents, or my siblings, family members, friends from high school. You have to make that effort, because chances are they're not going to, if they try, they're not going to be able to find you. Of course, this was back before email and internet and, cell phones. Now it's really easy to find each other. Social media, keep track. DM somebody real quick, see how your old high school buddy is. Real easy to do now. But you still have to make the effort to do it. Otherwise, it just goes backwards. All right, let's see what else we got over here. Can't feel like an imposter if you set the standard. You should strike fear in the eyes of the cadre. Yes. Yeah, there's not many people strike fear in the eyes of the cadre. Let me tell you that. They will be impressed by some, and especially good dudes, big dudes that are killing it, little small guys that are just tough as nails. I remember we had the dude that was barely 5 feet tall, and he just crushed everything. And we had this little skinny guy that was probably like 5'8", $120, just skinny. He had no muscle, no fat. I mean, he had a little lean, wiry muscle, but no fat. And that guy was colder than anybody I've ever seen. Always purple. Made it through. Never complained. Just, yeah. So that's the kind of people that buds instructors are impressed by. They're not impressed by they don't fear too many people. I don't think I've ever seen it. Let's see. Nick says, what are your thoughts on timing pre-lift meals and Jeff Nichols' advice to eat baby rice seal and white and whey right before a workout? It's up to you. I mean, I think you have to find the method that works for you. Um, Jeff likes that, works for him probably really well. Might not work for you in your digestive system. For me, I personally like baby carrots and apples and some honey, before I go into it. And, that's something that worked for me. And then I protein load afterwards, but I get a little bit of protein before, but not a whole lot. Usually eat a boiled egg, and, some fruit. So, but find out what works for you. And the only way to do that is write it down. Get yourself a notebook, a little handheld notebook, and start writing down. This is what I ate today. This is what I did today. These are my scores. Felt great. And then you can start, repeating that cycle, especially when you have like PR days or you just felt awesome. That's something you want to try to replicate many days as you can, right? But you're also going to have bad days sometimes. And that's when you need to look back in the last 24 hours and see what you did. How'd you sleep? How'd you eat? How'd you hydrate? Did you get electrolytes? Did you sweat profusely the day before? Were you doing a whole lot of work? How many steps did you get in the day? That's usually a good indicator that you were on your feet all day. Those are little key points that you can take and have data on why you performed well and why you didn't perform well. What you eat before and after your workouts, absolutely. Make sure you know what that is, because if you have a great day, you're going to want to do that again. So give it a shot. Find what works for you. I swam a lot in high school, wanted to go originally around 2021, but I really got a good paying job, veered off the path for the past 8 years and started to regret it. That happens. Life happens to people. Don't beat yourself up on it. I've known several people over 29 go to buds. We've had a few in their early 30s do it. One of my best buddies, whose son goes to the Naval Academy, comes out, works out with us all the time. He was 38 graduating buds. So don't give up on it if it's still a dream. If you can't stop thinking about it, don't give up on it. Keep moving. What's up, C. Ray? Let's see. Looks like I've answered all the questions. You know what time for, boys and girls, if they're already? It is time to share some videos. What do you think? Let's look at some CSS videos. I think I have, let me see here. Okay, here we go. Make sure you guys can see this. Let's use it. This one is, don't send me stuff like this. All right, this one makes no sense. Okay, what can you see anything here? If you can't see yourself swimming, don't send it to me. Right? Because literally 30, 40 seconds of this is, I can't critique this. All I can see is, okay, you got a really slow turnaround. Still can't see anything. You don't pop your head up to breathe. I see that, so that's good. You got a glide of 1 Mississippi, 2, no glide. You need to glide longer. Now I can kind of see what you're doing. No glide. Good kick. Need to glide longer. So don't send me stuff like this. Have somebody actually walk with you around the pool deck before that happens. All right, let me share this again before you send me. When I say before that happens, before you send me. See, like this, like just have somebody on the pool's edge walk along with you. And let's see what you got here. All right, so this one, remember under gliding? This is over gliding. And also, you're looking backwards. Like, get your head up. Like, you shouldn't be looking down at your belly when you're gliding. I mean, that's just not doing anything, right? So look flat. Keep your head flat. It's good to keep your chin tucked, but don't over tuck it either. But if you notice this, watch what happens right here. You just stop. So you kicked off the wall. You were really fast right here. Boom. Could kick off harder, go a little faster. Double arm pull. That looks good. Look, you're going fast, and then all of a sudden, stop. That'll slow you down so much. That'll eat up a clock. So good news is everything else looks pretty good. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, glide. Yep. I like it. I like it. So top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah. See, that's all good. Your kickoffs are just really bad. Don't over glide like that. I think that's all I got here for this one. All right, I have a few more I want to show you guys. Let me pull them up over on my computer over here. All right. Hang on a second. Pull this up. All right, you guys can see this. All right, we have, notice I stopped it right here because you can see, if you can see daylight, that's a good kickoff. But if you can see daylight in between your head and your biceps and your elbows slightly bent like that, you could be a little more streamlined. Okay, this is not the best streamline, but it's not quite like a plow either. It's okay. It could be better. Just tighten up those arms, lock them out, one hand over the other, straighten out those arms. You want to look like a torpedo off that wall. All right, so we kick off the wall, take out those flutter kicks, don't need them. That arm pull here, you see that? If you look like you're doing a jumping jack like this, I mean, think about the muscles you're using right now. These little bitty shoulder muscles that are pretty much just rotator cuff muscles that you're using, not very effective in a pullout. All right, what you want to do is, bend your arms and make them act like an oar, right? Pull with your lats and then push with your chest, shoulders, and triceps. Get a lot more muscles into that pullout if you do it right. But these little rotator cuff muscles aren't doing a whole lot for you. And think about your force vectors, right? Where are you right here? See those force vectors, right? They're all going out this way, right? You're not even pulling yourself forward. You want to be pulling all the water in this direction so you go forward, right? Right now it's just force vectors out here. By the time you get to here, time you get to there, about halfway. Yeah, I can't stop it in time. But anyway, you see what I'm talking about. Transitions out of it nice. Let's see the transition again. Top, you're a little deep though. A little deep. You got to force yourself back up to the surface. All right, so take out those flutter kicks. Top arm, bottom arm, one kick. No need to do these flutter kicks while you're gliding. And don't pop up your head to breathe. Turn around and go. I have a hard time thinking this is 25 yards. It might be. Just looks really short. Top arm, bottom arm. It's got to be short because this is only like a 45-second, and you're not swimming a 7. Yeah, take out those flutter kicks. Don't pop up to breathe. One kick per stroke. All right, I got one more to show you guys, and then I'll go back to taking questions. We'll end on a good one because this one looks pretty smooth, I think, as I recall. You guys see this? All right, so look at that. You see that streamline? That's a streamline. See that? One hand on top of the other, biceps on your ears, tight. Look at that. Okay, if you got less baggy shorts, you'd be even better off. All right, here we go. Kick off, double arm pull. Okay, that's where it went bad. All right. So this double arm pull with all these little funky chicken dolphin kicks, yeah, don't do that. Work on your transition out of that. That didn't look good. But you got a good glide here. Got to work on the kick. I think what's happening is that's pretty good. Top arm, bottom arm, kick 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, keep your head down when you breathe. Looks like he timed 100 on this one. Let's see what it looks like. Good kickoff. I like that funky transition out of the double arm pull. You know what? You're a good candidate for just taking out that double arm pull altogether. Right? Imagine this. If you were to just kick off the wall, super streamlined, don't do this. Just hold the glide a little bit longer before you double arm pull and just come up for your first stroke. Might be right about here by the time you do it. You know, you get an extra breath out of it and you don't have to do all this funky transition. Either work on your breaststroke pull out transition or take it out. I've had some people so bad with the breaststroke pull out transition. Once we took it out, they dropped 40 seconds on their swim because they were just losing all their momentum. Got a good streamline though. I like that. Tight, perfect. Double arm pull, just weird. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. I like it. I think you could work on your kick a little bit too. There's something about this, like not going through the water after you do this. I'm not sure where it is, but it could be your shorts that are baggy that are slowing you down, or it's, yeah, we got to work on your kick. I think your kick's off. So there's an article I have called CSS Help Fix Your Kick. You can practice some scissor kicking drills with a kickboard. You might be, I can't really tell. I mean, you're doing the basics right, but I think it just needs more power. All right. Hope that helps. Some good CSSs there. Looks like I've answered all the questions over here on Instagram. Let's see what we got. Let's see. I did about 1,200 yards per day for a week. Got shoulder pain, now strengthening and fixing posture, holding off on swimming. Yeah, I'm not sure what you did wrong there, but 1,200 yards a day isn't too much, I don't think. We usually swim about 2,000 a day, 1,500, 2,000 a day. But we mix it up. It's not all freestyle. You know, it's CSS, freestyle mix. Some days it's swimming with fins. Focus more on your legs. But yeah, rest your shoulder. Maybe you're doing something wrong with that pull. Morning, sir. What are the best methods to work deep back muscles, the thin strip of muscles alongside the spine? Good question. A couple ways. Bent over rows, barbell bent over rows. Whew, that'd rock them. Heavy, super heavy machine rows. It's a good one. Barbell, like landmine rows. Pretty good. Bent over doing it that way or with a straight barbell. Um, that's where I'd say. And then we also do some auxiliary stuff with calisthenics. I call it the PT reset, where we will do a lot of push-ups, sit-ups, things like that, but then we'll balance it out with arm haulers where you're laying on your belly like you're doing jumping jacks just with your arms. Birds, looks like you're flying like a bird. Reverse push-ups, basically like a 6-inch row, but laying on your belly. And you're trying to pinch those shoulder blades together. And then we do little swimmers with your hands up off the ground, little like flutter kicks on your belly. It's going to work that whole backside. So that's how we do it with a calisthenics version. But I think any bent over row, TRX row, wide rows are going to be really good for that. Have you tried those? All right, looks like I've answered all you guys' questions. Oh, got a couple more. How many miles should I run each day? It depends. I don't run the same amount of miles each day. I go in a cycle. I treat my year like a bell curve, and that's how I coach it as well. So we tend to run a little bit less, but lift more in the winter. And then we'll start ramping it up in the spring. We peak in the summer, and then we work our way back down in the fall and winter. That's how I do it. So I don't have one answer for you because it is either progressing each week or it is degressing each week, depending on which side of the bell curve I'm on. How many miles should I swim and run each day? Well, we usually swim about a mile a day, 2,000 yards a day, 5 days a week. Miles running, once again, it depends. We either run 10 to 15 miles a week in the winter, just as a maintenance, or we get up to 30 to 40 miles a week in the summer when we're peaking. Some guys would do a little more if they feel like they need it. But there's no one answer for you at all. There shouldn't be an answer for you. One answer. How much speed training for running each week? We usually do one fast run day a week. The other two are more goal pace running, where we set a pace that's our future mile pace that we want to get to, and we try to hit it in 400s or 800s, multiple sets. And then we do longer, slower run, ruck, soft sand. We do a hill day. So yeah, we'll get like 5, and we'll do a mobility day too. So we'll usually do one non-impact day of cardio and then 5 running days, some rucking days as well. But it's all listed right here. We got programs that show it. This is what we did in the winter this year, and this is what we're doing right now. Making some modifications to it since it's a new cycle, but we're using this as the template of what we are doing right now, and it's called spring training, getting to and through selection. Because pretty much every one of our guys is leaving April or June. And then we got a couple guys that are doing SOAS this summer and then won't leave until hopefully later in the fall or the winter of next year. Thanks for the critique, Stu. PR'd on my Freestyle 500 yesterday, 9:15, but CSS is slow. Have many small improvements. All right, Joe, good luck. All right. Well, I don't want to waste your time because I got stuff to do. I'm sure you guys do too. So get out there and get after it. Go to StuSmithFitness.com. Tons of articles over there. Running plans you can find in the articles. Swimming workouts. Mobility day training ideas. Tons of things. In fact, there's a video mobility day walkthrough you should check out. Article in there. There's also programs like this. You can save 15% if you stuck around this long. Save 15% by using the LIVE15 coupon code. Trying to help out if I can. But these are really affordable workouts. I'm not trying to, jam you up. But, these things were booked or ebook. All right. So if I missed your question, send it to me, stu@stusmith.com. Otherwise, go check out more of my CSS critiques. I post them over on my TikTok channel, and I also post them over on Instagram as well as YouTube. So until next week, you guys have a good one.